Welcome everyone to the LifePoints Culture Series. In this Culture Series, I talk about various movies, video games, different items of media in culture, and their deeper level significance. So this is basically kind of a deeper level cultural assessment series. Today, I'll be considering the movie Interstellar. I'll be looking at a variety of different movies that typically have some underlying or deeper level series of meanings, or just cause us to think more considerately about some different aspects of life. Interstellar, the movie, I'll kind of start with, it's a longer movie, an in-depth movie about basically saving the human race from blight and pestilence that kind of comes to the earth in various forms. And a group of scientists, people, NASA in the movie, basically believe they have the foresight to see that the human race needs to evacuate, or the planet eventually, and needs to start seeking another place to live for the human race safely in the long run. You learn through the course of the movie that on a Project Lazarus, as they call it, they've sent out 12 astronauts, adventurers, to various planets in other solar systems through an interesting wormhole that's formed near Titan, one of the moons of Saturn. They don't hear back from all of them. They have some data signals being sent back over years of time. And fast forward to the main time frame of the movie, Interstellar, and you have the main character who is connected in some unusual ways to becoming the lead astronaut to go on a follow-up mission to seek a new planet for humans to inhabit. And as a note, some of these cultural reviews of movies are really geared for those who've seen certain movies and to dig deeper into what's going on in the deeper level themes of the movie. So I will often recap the summary of the movie, but at times it might be not complete, and it may assume familiarity with the movie enough to where now we can dig deeper into the underlying meaning. One of the themes explored later in the movie that I think is very deeply interwoven, but it might not be obvious. One of the things I really enjoy about certain movies, and I think Interstellar is a good example of that, is there's a lot going on that is not shown on the screen. In some cases, you feel like you're watching the events in the movie, but something completely different or at another level is going on behind the scenes. And later in the movie, one of the insights that I think is profoundly going on at a deeper level, that is a theme of the movie, is that people in general, exemplified by those in the movie, the scientists, other citizens, can actually believe a lot of the same things, hold the same values of life preservation, of supporting each other, but actually prioritize those things extremely differently, focus on very different things. So what does that mean? It means that you have divergence in how people interact, and this, of course, can create tremendous conflict. But the fascinating thing is when you examine it more deeply, in a lot of cases, those different people believe very much the same things. So in Interstellar, one divergence that's explored is really the idea of, can we find another place for humanity to live and save those currently on planet Earth? In other words, it's a little bit personal too, because you are going on a rescue mission to find another home, specifically with the intent of rescuing those currently on planet Earth. And then there were those who believed that the cause was too far gone to rescue those on Earth, but they still had the same belief and values in that they wanted to preserve the human race. So their thought was, how do we just preserve the human race forward? Because we kind of think it's hopeless to save those already here. Their belief to love and support those around them across both parties was arguably the same. But they focused on and prioritized it differently. You could say for various reasons. One reason might be they thought it was hopeless. They added a kind of a rider belief onto their core values and said, well, it's hopeless. We're not going to be able to preserve the human race here, but maybe we can plant a small group on a new planet with this, plan for reproducing the human race that will work. So you see that tension between the characters late in the movie with the primary protagonist saying, no, I'm committed to saving and being true to those on Earth now, because I believe there's a solution that can meet their need while they're still alive on Earth. And then there were those who said, well, this is a foregone conclusion. Let's just move forward, move on to the next thing. You see how these differences in focus create so much tension and really are the main tension in the movie. And that's a phenomenal thing to really consider at a deeper level. The other primary theme, deeper level meaning I would say that comes out of Interstellar is causality. What is explored is the idea that the main character actually provided, we find out at the end of the movie, the information and means for him to even find the coordinates to NASA to go on the expedition. So in other words, his future self directly caused his earlier self to take the actions he did. So we're forced to really think about one of the themes brought up in the movie around time. Time being reframed as a physical dimension that can be inputted on, there can be input provided onto it. So really for me, dissecting and understanding how those things could be involved a similar diagram, similar to the one the main character does earlier in the movie around how time and space can fold, or space can fold on itself, allowing a wormhole connecting one part of the universe to another instantly. Similarly, if you think about time as cyclical, a circle, and then you envision that there is a higher version of yourself, of the main character's selves, of people in general, because the movie often references they, meaning kind of a future, more advanced version of the characters themselves. You kind of get this vision of, say, a plateau of life that exists above this circle. Let's imagine that the circle going counterclockwise represents the flow of time. So when you get, if you're starting at the top of the circle and you go to the left in a counterclockwise motion, that represents the main character at the beginning of the movie, when he is encouraged by the signs in his daughter's bedroom to find the coordinates to NASA and go on this mission, go on this journey. If you're starting at the top of the circle and you go to the right, just to the right, still at the top, you have his future self who actually is providing that input to his earlier self. So typically speaking, we would imagine, well, how can that be? Because his earlier self had to initiate actions to become his future self. But here we are seeing that it was his future self that provided the necessary input. Well, I think that the movie's argument really is that there can be a higher plane of being where time is just another physical dimension. And what could be argued is that higher level of the soul being, and there's of course many other themes here, descended down, communicated at the top of that circle of time, provided input to all aspects of that lower time self. So in other words, the future self of the main character was just as accessible as the earlier protagonist at the beginning of the movie. So from the standpoint of ascendant levels of reality, any point along that time spectrum was just as accessible. And the point being there that they did access that time loop and provided information to the future self, what to us seems to be the future self of the character, who then communicated to that earlier self to create this connectivity that ultimately allowed them to get the quantum data at the very end that was able to be transmitted back and provided for the rescue and evacuation of the human race to Titan, among other adventures in the stars. These were two major themes that we wanted to explore in this LifePoints Deeper Level Meaning Culture Series assessment. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to talking with you more on other movies, video games, and so forth.